The man suddenly ran to the tree hole to pick it up, and the top guy was the German officer chasing him down. Just because he was a deserter, and the German treatment of deserters was more cruel than the enemy. Once the man was found, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fortunately, this is a dead end. It's hard to see if the enemy doesn't come down. So the man stayed in the tree hole for a long time. He didn't dare to move or make a sound, until the sky flew over him, and he dared to peek out carefully. But he didn't go out right away, but quickly flew around. Obviously, the enemy had left a long time ago. The cold weather made him shiver. Just when the man was cold and desperate, an abandoned military vehicle caught his attention. There was not only a warm military coat on it, but also a pair of leather shoes that just fit. There was even a basket of fruit that could be used as a blanket. Then he kept looking for it, and he found a top-ranked officer's clothes. Looking at this military uniform that symbolizes power, a bold idea suddenly appeared in his mind. Then he put on his clothes, and then wiped the stains on his face with saliva. Just like this, a deserter became the top rank of the German army. In order to make himself look more like an officer, he began to practice the officer's kiss. Come on, run. Run for your life, you little pig. Come on, run. Just when he was practicing hard, a German soldier suddenly appeared in front of him. He was scared. He was afraid that his identity as a deserter would be discovered. He just saw the other party walking up quickly. Come on, come on, come on. Hurry up, chief. Seeing the other party report to his manager, the man finally reacted that he was now the top rank of the German army. Then he ordered the other party to repair the car. But just in case, he still took the other party's gun away secretly. Soon after this guy's operation, the car was driven out of the mud. And the man was able to gradually adapt to his new identity. He asked the other party to show his military ID without hesitation. Wu Zinan didn't know the other party was a fake, so he could only hand it over. I don't understand. He's a deserter. He quickly explained that he was not a deserter, but he had just separated from the main force. The man knew that the woman was lying, because that's how he escaped. But he didn't expose the woman, because he was also a deserter, and he just needed a little land. Then he just used an apple to put Gu Zinan in the ashes. The two decided to go to a restaurant to have a good meal. On the way, he secretly threw away the deserter uniform, which symbolized humiliation. Soon after, they found a tavern. However, because the German army had retreated and lost their morale, no one on the scene cared about him. It seems that it is impossible for a man to want to eat the king's meal. But soon he came up with a solution. Then he took out a piece of paper and a pen, indicating that he was sent up there to register the war damage situation, so that he could make corresponding compensations later. As soon as everyone heard this kind of good attitude, they immediately changed. They hurriedly came up and talked about their sufferings. The boss was also ready to serve the barbecue. However, when the hungry man saw the barbecue, he immediately exposed himself and grabbed it directly. This caused the boss to be suspicious. How could a follower of the superior position pull him so hard? And eating is also a wolf eating tiger eating. It's not like a normal soldier's style at all. Only deserters will do this. The man saw this. In order not to arouse suspicion, even if he was so hungry that his front chest was covered with his back, he still elegantly added a piece of barbecue to taste. At night, the boss arranged a tavern for them. But just as the man was about to sleep, the opponents suddenly called him. They caught a deserter who wanted the man to be punished. Obviously, they were testing him. If he didn't punish this man according to military law, it would prove that he was a fake superior. In order to save his own life, the man could only pick up the handgun and point it at his comrade in arms. Although the boss's worries were temporarily removed, this was not a place to stay for a long time. The next day, the two left here early and set off on a journey to escape from here. The two soon arrived at a door. This place was occupied by 3 deserters. They were having a good time in the house. At this time, Herold suddenly broke in. As soon as he entered the door, he immediately showed off the superiority of the superior position. The opponent saw the uniform on him and immediately put down the gun. But the deserter in front of him saw the flaw at a glance. The pants of the superior in front of him did not fit, and the high-level military uniform was custom-made. He knew that Herold was a fake, but he didn't expose it. Instead, he took the initiative to apply to join them. So the Herold Special Investigation Team was officially established. Then, they recruited 2 artillerymen on the way. He has already regarded himself as a real superior. He even asked his subordinates to conduct air defense shooting. He began to enjoy the special training brought by the superior. When there was no car, he made his subordinates into a manpower carrier. And Kevin suffered the torture of this fake goods. He pointed the gun at Herod. But at this time, the gendarmerie suddenly appeared. They asked to check the soldier's ID. Herod, who had no military passport, panicked. But he calmed down quickly. He said that he was carrying out a secret mission for his subordinates and threatened the gendarmerie. If he had to check his ID, he would report it to his subordinates. Seeing that the gendarmerie was hesitating, Herod knew that he would lose the bet. No one would risk his future. Even the gendarmerie invited him to inspect the camp. They came to the door of the camp soon. Herod met the person he was most afraid of in his life. He was the superior who chased and killed his own Runkier before. The two met again. Herod said that he was the superior of the Air Force. And Runkier told him that he had the ability to stay calm. Herod was so nervous that he wanted to run away. But Runkier laughed and said that he couldn't think of it again. After entering the camp, Runkier warmly welcomed Herod and introduced him to the captain of the Air Force here, Schult. Schult learned that Herod was sent by Yuan Shou. He was excited. It turned out that the camp was full of deserters. The temporary court didn't come. The prison was full. The two wanted to solve these deserters a long time ago. But the supervisor Hansen insisted on waiting for the temporary court. And Herod grasped the opportunity sharply. He said he could help. The deserters in the cell were standing and waiting for the trial. But what they didn't expect was that the so-called trial was so casual. The subordinate picked up an iron stick and started beating a deserter. Not long after, 5 people were executed. This illegal operation angered the supervisor Hansen. He called the superior. The superior said he would send someone to verify his identity. If the superior found out that Herod's identity was forged, then he would die a terrible death. But Schult wanted to please Herod. He contacted the leader of the area. The leader heard that this was a spy sent by Yuan Shou, and he told this to the supervisor. With such layer-by-layer communication and pressure, the superior handed over the right of disposal to Herod without verification. This also directly confirmed that he was a spy sent by Yuan Shou. Then the trial continued. But this time, it was more like a massacre than a trial. How did the Germans deal with the deserters? They pushed their own compatriots into the main pit. Then let the soldiers put on their high heels. Before they died, they sang the national anthem of the motherland. Then they gave the order. The so-called trial was more like a demonstration of Herod's prestige. Perhaps from the moment he shot the first deserter, his heart began to twist. The murderer's execution lasted from day to night. The massacre did not stop. No one would care about these dead prisoners. But except for Walt, he began to be unkind to these deserters. But suddenly Herod asked him to come forward to shoot. Because here, he did not allow compassion. After the massacre, all the officers and soldiers began to celebrate. They slaughtered their compatriots to reduce the burden of the prison. This made them more excited. Under the stimulation of alcohol, the soldiers became one group. They even broke into the prison and began to beat the prisoners. Looking at the most noisy men, Herod was furious. He fired a gun to stop the disobedient soldiers. But he did not punish the soldiers. Instead, he used a rope to tie the prisoner's hands. Wolf. Then he handed the gun to the prisoner next to him. In order to survive, he pulled the trigger without hesitation. And when it was the turn of another prisoner, he chose to commit suicide. Now Herod has changed from the previous prey to the current prey. He enjoys this game of power. Soon, all 4 prisoners fell to the ground. And everyone on the scene was the murderer. Now Herod has absolute power. He began to stop pretending. He even directly made Walther modify the unsuitable arsenal. His arrival turned this place into a playground for soldiers. Prisoners' funerals. But soon, the British plane smashed his beautiful dream. The bomb hit and fell. The whole concentration camp became a ruin in an instant. Herod was lucky to survive again. He brought a few soldiers with him to the town. He began to kill the hunters as a superior. He not only robbed the people on the street, but also killed the mayor who surrendered. By the way, he executed the disobedient soldiers. Herod successfully recaptured the town. He didn't know what the future would be like. But at this moment, he enjoyed the last thrill. It was the best choice. As expected, the accident came soon. The gendarmerie came to arrest Herod. He was sent to the military court. At this time, everyone knew that he was just an ordinary soldier. But the judge didn't sentence him to death. The superior thought he was a rare talent. So he wanted to send him to the front line to continue his talent. Herod also expressed that he would make a contribution to his crime. However, this was just his little trick. The next day, he took the opportunity to escape through the window. He hid in a forest until May 1945. Herold was arrested by the British Navy in William Island. In November 1946, he was finally sentenced to death. He was only 21 years old. This film is based on a true story. 19-year-old Herold was just an ordinary deserter. But with a uniform he picked up, in just 2 weeks, he killed nearly 200 people. He was known as the Empress of Emsland. But what's more shocking is that a lot of people knew that he was a fake, but no one exposed it. Everyone just wanted him to be the one who picked up the axe. What's cruel is not the war, but the human heart.